Hey guys, it's Griffin. In this video, I'm going to be live reviewing a sales call that I had with a model and a student of mine who I positioned as my business partner for this pitch. To give you a little backstory, I do review every single sales call that I have to watch on my improvements, to watch where I went wrong, what I did right, what I would change and say in the next call if I had another one. And so I wanted to record a video because I like to keep track of as much as I can with my agency. So this video, just me kind of going over a normal process that I do to give you a little bit of backstory on this call. This is a model that I got through a outreach. I got my student Jason, who I positioned as my business partner during this call, and we booked a call, got us all three on a merged call. And basically what the outreach was a position as something for the model to get paid doing a collab. But the whole pitch of it is once they're on the call, we ask them a couple of pre-qualifying questions, which actually do not exert into anything else, which we then pitch our agency based on the pain points that they discussed earlier. So the call, I didn't get it right as it started. I started the recording at 9 minutes and 54 seconds. So you're going to miss a little bit of backstory, but the call should be live right somewhere around me, playing for you to watch and see. So let's get straight into it.
Because we're working more on the what you call brand recognition. Like I don't know if he was telling you, he's scheduled to go on national television in the only town compared to a paid account. So we try hard to basically funnel content directly to individual users, and so by running mass messages and running a free account and a multiple wall posts. But like I said, we did this mostly because we're expecting exponential growth.
So right here, Jordan, the husband of the model that we were actually outreaching to, is basically explaining to us that he is putting off time to save the model's organic strategy for August when they actually have a promotion that they're doing on live television. So they're kind of holding off on promoting until then, which I didn't really understand because what they had was a system very ready to make money off just of a couple changes and sequences that we would put into the agency or their pages, I would say. But he kind of just explains this and goes over to it. But let's get into the juicy part of the call.
Okay. Because like switching from like and this is kind of a little off topic, but just curiosity, switching from a paid to a free account, is that because of her image going onto the show? And like, why would having a paid account or a free account even really matter?
Because
So what Jason's doing here, and I've actually had mock calls with him where we've discussed this pitch and kind of perspective to take on it, is Jason is trying to come up with as many issues, problems that they are having in their current like operation system that they're doing. So we can use those later on in the call to leverage them when pitching.
we're trying to build a bigger base. We're extracting about like honestly, her base has grown, but the amount of money she's pulling is actually not. But that's fine with us at this point because we're expecting a much larger base.
Ignore me constantly fixing my hair. I got a bad haircut that day. Forget about it.
So when we transferred to a free, we transferred, you know what I mean, from 200 users paying whatever $10 a month to literally now we have 3,000 users or 3,000 followers or fans, as you want to call them, that on average, most of them don't spend much, but the truth of it is we're still averaging the same amount of money because we're selling individual pictures, not so much, you know what I mean? Her free wall is nothing but her in lingerie and campaigns. Like we're
Okay.
selling.
Are you saying, because I think this is where it might be getting mixed up, is when you had it as a paid account on the feed, you had nudity content on there?
Yes, we had all the content on there.
Okay. Yeah. That is kind of like a common trend that we see, where creators have that paid account and they think that they should be giving away free content on the feed. Most like in reality, just like my recommendation to you is that having a paid account is literally always the best. But and then you still keep it non-nude on the feed, and any nude content they have to buy in the messages.
Well, we're planning on going towards that. Like we're trying to build a fan base, so we expected like right now we're gaining about 1,000 followers a month or fans a month. So
this was a recent thing then, because you have 3,000 now. You're saying?
yeah,
Okay.
So she's only been doing this for 5 months. So
Gotcha. And how do you, I'm really, I'm curious because going from paid account to a free account is very uncommon, but we definitely have worked with creators before that like I have experience bringing accounts from paid accounts, I mean from free accounts to a paid account. There's like a very specific way to do it to make sure you don't lose any bands. How do you anticipate in the near future transitioning from a free account to a paid account?
So right here, basically, Jason is trying to come up with as much leverage as he can before going all in on the pitch of things. And so he's just pinpointing their issues and what they're going to have to deal with later. Because me and him, in this point of the call, both know that it's not smart to go from a free or from a paid to free and then back to paid page. Just causes a lot of issues, a lot of lost fans, and overall isn't the best way to go about things.
we plan on creating a premium account that includes nudity but no actual like content. So we plan on. So what would be the campaigns would be included for free in the premium account, but um, not actual like video content really, other than like intro videos. So still selling the videos, but basically the video or the campaigns that we're creating, which is basically, you know, a campaign, maybe 30 photos and introduction video, and but any real content we still would be selling. So if they buy the premium service, I think we're looking at a $15 price point is what we're looking at for the premium. And it would include the campaigns for free, which she normally makes 2 campaigns, 3 campaigns a month.
So just to give context on what their plan is, if you didn't catch it, what they were wanting to do is start with a free page, and then once they get big publicity with the ABC, or I can't say that, can I? And then once they get more publicity with the other company that they were going to sign with to put them on live television, then they were going to open up a premium page at $15. This isn't the best way to go about it because if they would have started early with a because if they were to start early with a strong discount and then continued that paid page at $3.99 and then right before the show aired upped it to, let's say, $19.99, $14.99, whatever that expensive number would be, because you want to be in try and gain as much as you can during that time. That's the way that I would have gone about it, but they definitely were making a couple of rookie mistakes, and you'll see how we kind of come back and fix it right here.
Okay. So you're not going to transition the account back to paid. You're going to keep the account free and then funnel it to another paid only account. Yep. Smart. Yeah, actually, talk with that. Yeah, that's a really good idea.
So as you can probably tell from the excuse me. So as you can probably tell from the awkward silence, that was not sincere. Jason and I both agree that we do not think that that is a good idea at all for them. But you'll see how we come back from that.
Now for the amount of subs that we're kind of like looking for, that's kind of how we got off track here. But
so now Jason is bringing it back into those pre-qualifying, questions to ask Jordan to kind of see where the metrics are for the model, and then obviously we're going to disqualify them and work on the pitch. So this is how that went.
On a free account, we're looking for more of like that 10,000 mark for a free. Now for a paid, it really like we can kind of figure out like if there's a way still to not like disqualify this conversation, but when was it paid?
So right here, and I will say this is one of the early calls that we've had or that I've had with Jason on this new kind of DM template to sales funnel closing. And it's a new process that we're working on. And so it was a little bit hard to get and really make the flow of the conversation make sense from switching to this collab brand, whatever, XYZ, into pitching the agency. So right here, he's basically telling them, we're still kind of looking for something, but to not disqualify this call, ... And then he'll go on to pitch something.
It was just paid up until February. We just transitioned it to free in March.
Okay. And then do you recall like in February how much money was generated from just subscriptions alone?
Like $2,400.
2,400.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means that the account is doing roughly like 12 to $15,000 a month.
No. When it was under.
Okay, so right here, and all of you boys take notes. What this is called over assumption leveraging. So what Jason did here, and this is something that we've practiced and I've told him to do multiple times, and he actually did it really well in this call. Basically, you can find out and leverage anyone's income with two questions. One, what's your current sub price for that paid page? And then two, how many monthly subs you're bringing into that account. So let's say if they have a paid page of $3, right? And they tell me they have a sub rate of around 300 per month, right? Assuming it's around $900 a month from subs, and then on an average account that doesn't have great chatters, it's usually going to be an extra 2,000. So let's say 2,900. So the average closer would be like, okay, so you're at around 2,900, and then just continue the conversation as normal. What we do is actually over assume the amount of money that they're making, so that when we come back into the conversation, we can position ourselves as somebody higher and be like, oh, well, why do you think that's not it? So Jason knew that they weren't making this amount of income, but positioning yourself is like, oh, okay, so you're making $15,000 a month, because with a 1 to 10 chatting ratio, it's possible to do so. So that's where he's getting at. So now he's going to pitch the chatting ratio and explain why and how he could be hitting those type of numbers.
Or when I was under a paid account, we weren't selling any content directly other than customs. So, no, we're talking pretty much the revenue was completely provided by the subscriptions. What was
So
it?
you're saying now, since it states roughly the same, you are
Yeah.
still making around that $2,400 mark.
Yep.
Okay.
We basically just gain more fans and more work, but we're like I said, we're looking at a lot of growth soon because, like I said, she's slated to be on national television.
Sure. Yeah, that would significantly help. But I am like the reason why I mentioned the like 12, 15,000. Have you ever heard of chatting ratio before?
Adding ratio, no.
Chatting ratio. Okay. So chatting ratio is basically your ratio between your subscriptions and your message.
So as you see, I got kind of excited here because Jason implemented exactly what we talked about prior, which is leveraging yourself as somebody making more income and surprised that they're not at that same level as you, which actually doesn't create the weird, like, oh, I'm not doing enough for the client. It creates more of a psychology of, oh, okay, this person's doing it and he assumed that I was already doing that. So that means I definitely can, which creates that aha moment in their head, thus leading them to wanting to do and act on how to get those type of numbers.
And tips, right? So like an industry standard should be around that at the minimum, especially with like the quality of model that we're talking about. You're looking at least a 1 to 5, which means that for every $1 you make from your subscriptions, you should be making a $5 from your messaging and tips combined, right? So like when I hear that you're making $2,400 from subscriptions back in February, in my mind, that's why I kind of just guessed that if you have chatting team on the account and have like effective chatting team on the account, because that's like honestly the potential that you should have had in that month.
I mean, that's obviously part of the reason why I'm also interested in whatever software you're offering to help handle some of the chatting. I mean,
yeah. So the software,
Yeah.
it's only more for traffic, right? So the AI is gonna be able to track all of your fans across all networks, right, using AI agents, and then we'll be able to funnel those people in by sending like DMs and then running like specific kind of DMing campaigns across all the social media platforms. But it'll individually know like who is who across each platform using. It actually uses like it's called a reverse API engineering.
So I'm just going to fast forward this section. Basically, Jason is talking about what the software does. Obviously, it's complete, just whatever he says goes. And then from here, we're going to bring it back into the conversation of how do we get those numbers on your account.
Ultimately, though, it doesn't sound like we would be too interested in at this time. Like I don't want to like shut it down, but like at this time, because we're not on a free account at that $10,000 mark. it doesn't seem to make too much sense. But like at the same time, I am like curious to know, like, what's holding you guys back, do you think, from achieving that around that like $12,000 to $15,000 mark? Because like I look at that account, I'm like, damn, you guys help me do it.
Because we're
So right here, Jason did exactly as planned. What the idea of this thing is that once you identify that what their pain points are, it's so much easier to close somebody because you know exactly what to pinpoint. So asking this question of, oh, okay, why do you not, or why do you genuinely think that you're not already at that $10,000 a month mark? $15,000 a month mark, 50,000, whatever it may be. Why do you think that you're not there yet? What are you missing in your current rotation, your current setup that isn't leveraging you to make that kind of income yet? Like, why are these creators doing it that I've seen in the industry around the same numbers as you? Why aren't you? Like, what do you genuinely think is the case there?
we're completely purposely slacking, and we're lacking on what we're putting on OnlyFans on purpose because we expect to be able to ask for a premium as her fan base grows.
Okay, but the people that are joining the account, I roughly like.
So, what he's saying, I kind of touched on it earlier, but he's waiting until this television show goes live and he gets a ton of traffic and he's going to ask that premium price for it. The thing is, the television was 2 months away. This is 2 months of income that would have been streamlined, would have been 10x even, with just a couple of integrations added, which was what I was going to hit on the most was just the time and then the fact that it didn't make sense and that it could be white labeled and outsourced from agencies like ours rather than waiting 2 months, lowering income, hoping for a chance at a high ROI at the end of the month. And that's what I would have kind of and that's what I've kind of would have and that's what I kind of would have focused on, but you'll see what Jason does here.
3,000 something followers on the free account, right? And you're selling that content in the messages, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the content you're selling to them is explicit content, correct?
Barely. We're talking lingerie and topless pretty much is mostly what's being sold at this point. We have a lot of stuff that we could make a lot more money off of, but we haven't been pushing it. So only if they're asked for will we go farther than the campaigns that we create in mass messages.
Okay.
But like I said, we're not really trying to push our like the X-rated content that we created and stuff. We're not really looking to push that at this point because, like I said, we got a contract with, I mean, a national studio.
So you see, I have an idea here because at this point, I totally have what this guy is trying to do figured out, and I've come up with a good leverage point to disengage him and kind of get him more on my side of things. And you'll see how I handle that. Just to clear up some details, Jordan. So you signed with in March, right? Or are you going live on TV in March?
We're going live in August.
In August. Okay, going live in August. So for these next 2 months, are you guys planning on just doing what you're doing and operating on a free page, selling content in the DMs?
I mean, unless something else comes along that can be beneficial to actually help manage it, we're looking at just basically putting our time into actual content production and networking because we don't want her to look like some small.
100%. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So right here is exactly how I wanted it to go down. I then introduced, like I said earlier, about the time and how it doesn't make sense, and they're just hoping for a high ROI on that TV show, which makes sense because live television is a high market. But you see, he told me exactly why and also what's preventing them. So now it's my turn to kind of leverage what resources that I have to help him do just that.
Well, let me just step in again.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
you're good.
Um, like the goal is what right now? The goal is to make more money, correct?
I will say Jason did kind of steal away the close and kind of full pitch that I was about to go for, but he did save it in this conversation. I cannot be mad at it.
Actually, the goal really is to not blow opportunities in 2 months from now, to expand network and be able to we pretty much target specific people.
So as you can see here, Jordan got very hesitant once Jason asked. So to be clear, the goal is to make more money, correct? Now, obviously, right? Everybody wants more money. Nobody's going to say no to more money. But that's exactly why you don't want to say something like that, is because when you leverage that, oh, the goal is to make more money, people get hesitant and they're like, well, obviously, but why are you telling me that? I already know that. What are you about to show me? Right? And after being in a call and with two management agency owners, it doesn't look great. I would have handled it a little bit differently. If I had to go down his path, I would have said something like, the goal is ultimately to make her a full influencer rather than just a small OF girl making X to X amount per month. You want to blow her up so it's actually profitable. And then from that point, later down the line, delete her OF and focus on influencer marketing. From what I've gathered from that conversation, previously, that's exactly what he wanted. So I would have just framed it and positioned it as, so the goal is, and then enter what he said earlier as the goal after we've identified what he wanted. And then from there, you can position your agency as the fix to that problem.
At this point, the ones, I mean, that are looking for, that's where we make our money off of targeting specific people. And other than that, right now we're just looking at building her brand and her recognition, because specifically we know that her value is going to be a lot higher when she's in a couple months from now. And we all know the truth of how a lot of this works. A good portion of people are going to be trying to subvert the pay process. And there's OF leaked websites everywhere, and we're going to have to be competing with those as it is. And we don't want necessarily all of her content being out there before.
Like they have DCMA takedowns. I mean, we run that. We have an in-house legal team that runs that 24/7.
I know.
That's not something to overthink. I mean, also, if someone posts your leaks, that's honestly not a terrible thing as long as.
Okay, so the conversation kind of got off topic just because Jason really focused on the legal team and taking content down, which I necessarily wouldn't. I like to kind of wrap things up once I do identify the problem, and then I figure out a way to position myself slash the agency as the fix. So I'm just gonna fast forward it until something else happens.
Like we won't use we won't even cross post the content.
Interesting. Just to ask you something else, Jordan. Once you get on TV, right, you get your publicity after these 2 months of standstill go by. Once you get that and they instill one manager for your OF, from what I've seen, and even a couple of those big agencies that just kind of swarm on models, it's just one manager with a bunch of connections rather than implementing systems. So once you get that one OF manager, because I know previously not doing OF specific management.
There's not. They're
Yeah.
not doing OF specific management. They're basically saying that
Yeah.
she will have a private manager and they will pay for the rest of her management and the management team that goes with it.
100%. So with that, are you going to be outsourcing another management for her OF, or are you going to keep handling that? Because from what I see, this.
Plan on not working at all.
Okay, yeah, I definitely, I trust me, man. I've worked with models that have their husband, boyfriend, whatever, their spouse do their chatting, do their social media, and it's a lot for them. But obviously, when management companies don't do right or make empty promises, I can see that happening. But as far as just like these next 2 months on standstill, is it just going to be what that is? Is it going to be a standstill for these next 2 months? And then after that, the contract that you have with an outsourcing new management, are you going to be able to afford that percentage for new management companies? Because as you probably know, the industry standard is close to 50-40 minimum. You know what I mean? So right here, what I'm doing is explaining to him something that he already knows. He knows he's going to be in a standstill. He knows that one manager from a company that doesn't do OF specific management isn't going to be enough, and he knows that he's going to get another, or going to have to instill some sort of white label or outsourced work from another OF specific management. So with all these three things right here, I'm trying to solve it with one solution, which is my agency Unity link. And from that, I can identify it more as a soft close rather than, hey, I can do this for you, you can do this. I want to identify first what he wants. So he wants to have a good manager. He wants to obviously not have these 2 months just be standstill, no money. But I'm pointing it out to him like, do you want this? Like, is that where this is going? In a question form to him, then later saying no, and I then pitching.
I mean, from what because I also know some managers in the industry. I mean, based on the once she has that type of publicity and what their actual goals will be for her, she's looking at more of like a 30% contract, mostly because the fact of it is they won't be managing production or anything. They'll only be managing OnlyFans really, because it'll be a primary manager running all of her photo shoots.
Yeah, all that stuff would make sense at that time. Yeah, when you're at those bigger numbers. But like right now, like what's stopping you from hiring a team to handle the chats so that you can be making more money in this time?
So Jason did a really good line here. I wouldn't change anything about this. He basically positioned it as not as, would you be open to the idea of my agency running XYZ for you? He positioned that, why are you opposed to it? Or what would take you for to be opposed to it? He kind of asked it in a, if you know the book Start With No, he's using something from that book. And also it's always good to look for a no or a disagreement on a negative question. So whatever, let me see what he asked again specifically. So he says, what's stopping you from hiring a team? That is I love that line. What's stopping you? That is going to implement him to tell you exactly the why. And then from the why, you can just position yourself as whatever the solution will be from the problem.
Because we're just the fact is we're not really looking to put the content out there. Like that's what I was saying. Like unless we're not looking to
Sell the content on OnlyFans.
oh well it's not just that. Like we're under the contract we have, we're not allowed to actually sign any new contracts. Especially so literally we have I gotta look at it, but I wanna say it's something there's a specific date on it. Like
So this is when the conversation just went totally AWOL. I was pissed the fuck off. I'm not gonna lie, for this next like 10, 15 minutes. I'm gonna skip through this whole part to tell you to tell you exactly what happened. He basically mentioned the idea of how he had a contract that limited from signing with any other management agency, any other XYZ, and basically it was him and Jason going back and forth talking about the legality of it, and then also the ways to get around it with either white label or outsourcing without contracts. And so yeah, I'll skip to the next part that's important.
more like what we
Yeah, I got you.
right.
Well, why don't we, obviously, because the brand has the brand's requirements and we can't really change that. But in the meantime, we handle everything as far as what this brand and automation does. Now, it sucks that at this point yet in time, we couldn't get you in and implemented and started today on the brand deal. But as far as just chatting, man, and I can guarantee, like Jason was saying, I can have my attorney look at it, but as far as chatting and just taking loads off of your hands, even for these next 2 months, and I mean, I can guarantee moving into August, you're going to be looking at a couple of different options that I'm sure are going to kind of pull your hair. But for these next 2 months, I mean, let's talk about getting that load off your shoulders, that extra time in your pocket, because it sounds like money isn't the biggest thing, but rather time and just efficiency. So preparing these next 2 months for that, and then moving into August, September, October, November, December, all those months could also be put towards outsourcing work, outsourcing XYZ, because if I'm pretty confident in the fact that I'm not going to give you any sort of profitable OnlyFans management agency or OnlyFans manager or manager in general. I've been in the management space for about 5 years, and I'll say the biggest thing in this industry over anything else, like all the other management, influencer management, XYZ, is automations and knowing how to do the tech side. And with what you have going on, it seems like you have a plan set out, but there's definitely some additions that could be put into it to make you a lot more money while saving you time. So,
Yeah, additionally, let me just cut you off. Additionally,
so what I would do differently here from what I just said is I would just say less. If I would have stopped that conversation, you can go back and watch it. But if I would have stopped that conversation after the question of, well, let's talk about getting you XYZ. Are you opposed to XYZ? What's stopping you? I would have stopped. I should have stopped there, but I kept talking. And then eventually, I'm sure he just totally forgot about it. And then Jason felt the need to pick the conversation back up on his end.
before you get to that point where, okay, now she's this big public figure, you're going to start bringing a ton of traffic from her image. Um, you guys are going to need to make sure that you're running like the correct like content strategy just within the OF itself, right? So are you currently running like drips, sequences, scripts? Like if you're familiar with that term, it's essentially like what we do in our agency is we run GFD across all platform across.
So Jason basically just goes into the depths and details of chatting, hoping that he doesn't know what it is, and he didn't, so it was all good. But what he's doing here is just positioning himself as somebody who knows a little bit more and trying to offer a hand and a suggestion into what they're already currently doing. And usually from this, with a suggestion, you can move into, okay, we could actually get this into your pages. We could provide this for you. Is this something that you'd be open to? And then XYZ close. But it kind of got prolonged and didn't go anywhere. I got you. I got you. So like, yeah, I mean, you have what you want. Obviously, you're not a dumb guy. So right here, you'll see me. I'm trying to get the conversation back to closing because I've been on this call for now 27 minutes and 57 seconds. I was done. The guy wasn't really budging on any sort of deals, promotions, closing. So I kind of just gave it one last full send into, okay, let's get this conversation back on point, back on focus, and actually close. And for everyone that goes on calls regularly, you'll know that if you get way too off, there's almost sometimes where you can't bring it back. Obviously, there's always a way, but it's better to keep the conversation moving in a straight path. If it veers off, that's fine. It even is better sometimes to create trust, communion, personality shows, whatever, but bring that path back on and keep the conversation heading to where you want to go. You always want to be in control and the predator of any call that you are on. I'll have something set up. You have been making changes, you've been making plans, you got that thing coming up, but I'm here to help you in the way that I see fit. And I guess the reason why Jason and I are here to be curious and kind of ask you these questions is so right here, I've kind of fucked up when I said I just want to help you. This is a red flag in anyone's mind that is listening on the other end of a phone call of a person that they just met, because why would they want to help you? What I should have said and what I like to do now in sales calls is say something along of, all right, look, I didn't even want this conversation to go in this direction necessarily, but from what we've talked about, what I've heard, I do want to at least show you what I'm thinking, just because I think it would be unfair for the fact of me not to. And then you will never have anyone deny that or deny you at least giving them what your suggestion is. See a lot of missed opportunities, and I just want help understanding why you're taking these when I feel like an implementation of just a simple white label work, like, because totally I get it. You're under contract. Hannah told me that when I first DM'd you guys. Of course, that was no problem. But white label work, it doesn't go against that at all. So I'm curious why we're hesitant to step forward with just taking that load off you. And I get it that you want to save it all for August, get public. Again, I shouldn't have kept talking here. I should have ended it at, why do you not want to move forward with white label work XYZ? With the TV show, get a bunch of traffic, launch that premium OF page. But I'm here to say, like, that workload is not going to be enough when you're getting off the air, randomly switching into a new OF manager, got that new manager, and you still need to figure something out. There could be, just to warn you, a lot of missed opportunities during that August to the next month. Just those 30 days coming off the air. So would white label chatting, just minimal chatting, because I know that you said for some reason, I haven't really wrapped my head around it, but that you're not trying to promote her from the account that I DM'd her at least to its max ability. Um,
Well, like I said, we're also, like I said, we're not trying to necessarily promote what is, like I said, almost as if moving her towards like a non-nude setup anyway.
okay, so
Because
you're
of
trying to
the
shift
publicity.
from just the OF making money with that to more of an influencer marketing kind of niche.
Yeah.
I got you. I
Now,
got you.
so that's one of the reasons why we're not pushing so hard, because we're hoping to be able to work.
So at this point in the call, I basically just gave up. These people want to quit OF in X amount of months. Anyways, they don't want to push her name for some weird reason. I still don't fucking understand. Why would you not want an extra $20,000 in your pocket? And with her setup, it easily could have been that. But whatever. Moving forward in this call, you'll hear me just kind of give up on them. But I told him I'll follow up in about a month. But let's
The money and brand deals, like specifically, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't mind selling whatever nudity and stuff, but we would prefer to cut the X-rated, which, like I said, we could be making a lot more money with X-rated content, but we don't push it at all. The only way
You don't even do X-rated content right now.
Well, we have.
That's just.
It's yeah.
Push out anymore right now with everything that's coming out.
Yeah, like we're not pushing any X-rated content.
That takes off, and I don't necessarily have to be doing porn or.
Yeah, that's right, by the way. Yeah.
In the background is the model at hand we're talking about, if you were confused.
She walked in on the conversation. She just finished eating dinner.
All good, all good. So from what I'm hearing is you're trying to switch from, and from what I'm hearing from her also, just in that short sentence, that you're trying to move away from porn content, move into brand deals, get more money from kind of service level social medias rather than having to do chatting, handle OF and do all of that. Correct? Am I correct in saying that?
Have to build the fans and to keep the people that are willing to pay.
Mm-hmm.
But we're more focusing on, like I said, building our image.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
I got
We're
you.
not necessarily looking at pushing out. Like I said, we could make a lot. We moved away from a paid page to a free page, and we did that because we wanted to pull the X-rated content off of it anyway.
Okay, so let me tell you this. So 100%, I see where you're going with this. I worked in influencer marketing out in LA for around 3 years. I totally get the why for the switch, 100%. But what I'm not getting is why not have both in the meantime until it gets to that point where she is big enough, she does get those consistent brand deals, she's making that money on a monthly recurring basis where OF, if you decided to, wasn't even worth it, to the point where you can take advantage of both scenes and totally just automate one. So yes, focus on all of those publicity that you're getting, focus on getting her name out there, focus on that surface level influencer kind of marketing that you want to put her at. But why not streamline the OF side? One, in the meantime, two, maybe even long term if it beats the OF or the influencer and brand deal income, because I can almost guarantee from what I've seen on her pages that her OF would be huge, especially not to just get into specifics, but the MILF industry right now. We have a creator. Once again, I talked too long. Listen, if you are on a sales call and you ask a question after a good pivot of conversation, shut the fuck up. Leave it. All right. Once again, I kept talking and then eventually I said something and he commented on that and never even answered my question. If you guys are confused about why your questions are getting answered, why your script doesn't follow perfectly, it's because you're talking too much. And I'm doing the same here clearly, but watching these calls and letting you guys see me review them will hopefully teach you and also me. So as you can see, I had a good pivotal conversation. I had a good pain point landed, and I asked the question and I kept talking and got off track. So stop talking and learn how to shut up. In the same kind of niche. That's why I actually messaged her in the first place. But is just banging out money, like printing. So I just want to know why you won't automate that side. Leave it to an agency, whatever management company, leave it to that, and then focus
I
on
mean,
what you want until it gets to
there's
the
a
point where it's like,
there's a
okay,
second reason too. Another reason why we haven't. So we didn't sign their contract, obviously. So this is a. I mean, I'm sure you can see on there. My wife collabs with the.
okay. So at this point, he now is taking back some of what he said, saying that his wife is signing with another online social media club, and there is restrictions in that too. At this point, I was done with the conversation. I knew I wasn't closing this guy. Not my ideal client, not a client that I want to hand over to Jason. So, in this point, I'm just going to fast forward it to the call to show you how I close and kind of end on a good term and good relationship for the future if anything opens up. Here's that now.
You're with the strategy that you're running is smart, I think, since it is just you, but you're missing out on an additional 10 grand a month on the account.
So, as Jason just said, once you're at the, or not as he said, but what he said, once you're at the end of a conversation and you've said everything to sign, you've done everything XYZ to be soft, to close properly, I wouldn't disagree with what he did here by being so blunt about it. Basically, what he's saying is, okay, so what I'm hearing from you is you're okay with missing out on another 10 grand in your pocket every month. And if he agrees, he agrees, right? You can't fix that. So
I mean, we're not really worried about holding off for another 2 months. The fact of it is we're not.
Either,
We're not.
either way, you're gonna need that. And
I mean, yes, we will need that, obviously, but you know what I mean. I figured once we start having the real inflow is when we will actually look into negotiate. Because I mean, obviously, it's a major contract that's going to end up happening because
100%.
once she's or a small level OF girl and a small level influencer at this point, but we know that literally in the next 3 months she's going to go from small to medium to large overnight, pretty much.
yeah,
Yeah.
and honestly, I think at this time, like it makes the most sense. We're like so off topic, and I do have to run here in like 2 minutes, but I appreciate you guys hopping on the call. But I think that makes the most sense. Like you should continue to run it the way that you're running it now. Let's keep in touch. Let's chop it up maybe in like a month and a half or 2 months. See if you qualify for us to run the software.
So basically, just ended off the conversation as, okay, I'll follow up in about a month to see where you're at numbers wise. If it makes sense for us to do this collab, then we'll do it. But of course, it's just another chance to pitch the agency. But unfortunately, we didn't close anybody today on that brand deal, or at least the day of this recording, whatever that was. But if you did learn anything from the video, from what I was saying as my review, XYZ, I'm glad. Like the video if you did. If you're interested in becoming somebody like Jason, where I kind of hold their hand in OFM, let them leverage my already built agency to sign new models and get new info, XYZ, create new systems, really boost whatever agency or lack of models that you're having now, you can join my Telegram. It is the second link in the description. And I host live calls every single Friday. And I actually just did a live model giveaway where we gave away a model contract for 100 members in my Telegram. So if you want any chance to be inside of that, inside of any giveaways we do, go ahead and click the second link in the description to join my Telegram. It is completely free. And who knows, you might even win a model contract. We did it live on call. One of the boys that has been in the Telegram since almost day one won. So it was fucking great. But if you're interested in an agency consultation from me, you can click the first link in the description. And if you have any questions or want any resources, templates, whatever I offer, all for completely free, of course, you can message me on IG. But if you did enjoy the video, I appreciate you. And I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace.